We have a special offer for our Munch Bunch listeners. To book a virtual consult with Megan, she's offering a discount of $25 off. Just email her, Megan, at nwmyofunctionaltherapy.com or through her website, www.orofacial-myology.com. To book a virtual consult with Kimmy for the $25 off, email her mouthmusclememory@outlook.com or through the website www.mouthmusclememory.com. Now on to the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Munch Bunch podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Megan Van Noy, myofunctional therapist at Northwest Myofunctional Therapy. And we've got Kimmy Nishimoto, my friend and podcast co-host, favorite person in the whole world, at Mouth Muscle Memory for her practice. And today I'm very, very excited. We have Jenni June joining us. Jenni is a sleep consultant, an IBCLC, a baby whisperer, a mommy whisperer. And Jenni is going to just chat with us today about sleep, kind of through the full gamut, babies, her big kid sleep programs, kind of like ages 2 to 5 and beyond. And then she's also been working with adults, which is really cool. And full disclosure, you guys all know who Isabel is at this point, hopefully. And if not, that's my baby. And we are currently working with Jenni to help with Isabel's sleep and to help us through the process. So I've gotten to do a deep dive with her. And she's, spilled all of her secrets to me, and we're going to do our best to get Izzy. And honestly, it's me. It's not even Izzy, you guys. It's totally me on board and sleeping really, really good at night. So I'm going to document that journey. We're starting on Monday because we had a double ear infection this week. So we pushed back a week here. And I know, poor baby, but yeah, so you guys will learn even more from, Izzy's journey and from our journey from a parent perspective. But, and Jenni, you have been on a lot of different programs. I feel like I would miss some if I tried to say all the different places you've appeared and, groups that you've worked with. So we'd love to hear from you. Give us a little bit of background on how you got started, how you got into it, some of the groups you've been working with, and we'll dive in.
Yeah, thank you. So, I've been doing this. I'm going on my 11th year now as a certified sleep consultant and lactation counselor in mainly pediatrics, but it's definitely evolved into adult sleep and working with adult insomniacs. And the only thing that's really outside of my scope of practice is the structural or functional issues with sleep, which you guys specialize in. And so I end up, I see a lot of it, not just with children, but adults too. And I end up referring out to specialists like yourself, which is life-changing for my clients. And we're really able to approach sleep in every modality, just really making sure the structural, the functional, and the behavioral is tightly in place, so that they can really experience the benefits of, proper breathing and well sleep and the huge amount of health benefits that come from that. But yeah, I've worked, I've been a longtime member of the National Sleep Foundation. I'm a faculty member and collaborative provider for the Breathe Institute in Los Angeles. And I've worked with a lot of celebrities, some I can't mention, but I think one of my first, gigs was on Juliana and Bill Rancic's reality show back in 2013, I think it was. Sleep training baby Duke when he was 6 months old. And, the Doctor's TV show, I'm the child sleep expert for them. And a variety of podcasts. I can't even remember all of them, but, it's been a fun journey. And I think my favorite thing was when I went on my family sleep event tour across 6 states and 16 cities, I think it was, in 2014, really introducing and pioneering, kind of getting the parents and families aware of what sleep hygiene was. And so I really kind of just pioneered that whole understanding of what it was and how important it is to well sleep for children, whether you're using it alone to make sure that they've got a strong foundation of circadian rhythm science under their, under their feet to sleep well and evolve these care routines and parenting responses and such to meet and match these new evolving, developing needs for sleep as they get older. But also it's an essential part of any sleep training program. And most sleep training is primarily focused on behavioral methods. And that's important. We definitely need to look at how to change the routine within a neuro habit where they're learning new associations with how to relax and fall asleep and connect back to sleep. But none of the methods will work out there. If they do, it'll be very short-lived and met with a ton of unnecessary, protest and temporary struggle if it's not bolstered on a foundation of the 4 pillars of sleep hygiene, which is my trademarked work. So if you wanted to learn more about that, you could just even go on Instagram or Facebook and hashtag the number 4 and then pillars of sleep hygiene.
Well, now.
Oh, and I guess I should mention my street cred. I'm a mom of 4. Sorry.
The most important part.
I've got 4 children. They're all in their 20s now. We've all survived, made it on the other side. But yeah, I had 4 kids within 6 years, and I was a single mom a lot of those years. And so I homeschooled them all away, and and was a working mom at the same time. So I've got some street cred. I can really get down in the trenches with parents who are struggling with a lot of different challenges out there that come with raising children, not just the basics, but I'll get down and dirty with them. So I can really meet them where they're at.
Yeah. So
Jenni,
cool.
you have me all titillated. Like, what is the 4 pillars? I need to know.
Oh, so the 4 pillars are essentially, syncing sleep with natural biological rhythms and integrating evidence-based nuggets of solid sleep science into a child or an adult's, care routines throughout the day that support sleep, support hormones. Sleep is 100% about the brain and hormones. It has nothing to do with, how much food is in the stomach or any of those, old myths and things that we used to believe, weight and all of that. But the 4 pillars are: the sleep environment is the first pillar, making sure that the environment is conducive to kickstarting and optimizing melatonin levels, those powerful sleep hormones, making sure that we have an abundant amount at sleep onset and throughout the night so that we can reduce the fragmentation of sleep. Within 48 hours of sleeping fragmented, we can go into a chronic state of stress from the sleep deprivation it causes. And then we have a myriad of issues that come into play then. The second pillar of sleep hygiene is the sleep cues. This one is, shockingly, you'd think a lot of people would know what those are, but believe it or not, it's often opposite of what parents think those things are with their kids, and very different than what we're hearing out there on the internet. We need to know what it looks like when melatonin is putting maximum pressure on the brain and body, what that feels like for your child, and help them learn to, start recognizing that feeling and cueing, just like we help them learn, with time and testing, to recognize when they're hunger cues. There's different cues that the body gives us, and to really understand what those look like, how much time we have in order to recognize those, and what we need to do to anticipate them in advance, so that when we see them, we're not wasting any time. We're able to put them in their bed or their crib, or put ourselves to bed in that sweet spot, that window where the brain and body are flooded with those powerful hormones and want to do the sleeping. And the only thing left to fight it after that is a child's will or old habits, and just that temporary struggle that comes with change as we get on the other side of that, just kind of evolvement of our care routines. The third pillar and the fourth pillar is how we set those cues up for success in advance, how we anticipate those. And the third pillar is the pre-sleep routines. Fourth pillar is the timing of sleep. Pre-sleep routines are powerful tools if they're performed correctly. They serve 2 important functions. They help to kickstart melatonin, and they signal to the brain and body that sleep is about to come, which is the essence of routine, and what helps provide a foundation of emotional well-being for a child or an adult as they're learning to do something new and get out of old habits and things and adjust to new ones. The fourth pillar is the timing of sleep, and that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that parents get from the entire consultation, or adults for themselves, understanding how biological rhythms work, how circadian rhythms work, and being able to make sure all the conditions are right, and we're allowing our body to, we're allowing ourselves to obey our body's hormonal cues when it's happening. And a lot of parents and people out there think we can change those biological rhythms, that we can manipulate time, and it's not something we can do. So we have to really be aware of how all that works and have a good schedule in place that, helps helps parents or adults optimize the timing of sleep. Because if timing is off, then everything's going to fall apart. And a lot of people think that how many hours of sleep we're getting is the most important thing to focus on. It's not. Actually, timing is far more important, and if the timing is right, those hours we need are naturally going to be there, and beautifully. And to wrap our mind around that logic, it's helpful to look at jet lag syndrome or shift worker syndrome. Helps you kind of see it within that perspective.
Yeah. And I'll tell you guys. So actually pillar 2, the sleep cues, is really what got me when Jenni and I were diving in for Isabel. And every baby's different. So I'm not even going to speak to the specific parts. And that's where Jenni can come in and help you guys. But even just the times where I thought Izzy was tired and she was like, no, that's actually when she's overtired. Have you noticed when she does this or that? And I'm like, oh, that's and so first babies, their first pancakes, they're your experiments, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But it was really that was I think I in my notes I think I picked up a different color of pen. I'm like, no, look for these things, because that's not what I see through my Instagram feeds. That's not what I see through my scrolls. That's not what my friends and I talk about necessarily. So for me, even more so, when we were talking about those and diving in deeper, those sleep cues was something I was like, oh, that is not what I was thinking. So I'm so glad to have learned, that as well.
So Meg, for
yeah.
Isabel,
Yeah.
what were the sleep cues?
She was really rubbing her eyes a lot, which I'm like, oh, that means she's tired, but that means she's overtired. That means we're past that point. Some of the ear tugging and those things, and that's kind of what I even was told, from the pediatrician as I was going in, of oh, that's how you know that she's tired, or other moms, or, even grandmas being like, oh yeah, oh, yep, she's definitely tired. And, for her, that actually means that she's overtired. And I'm like, oh,
right.
Oops.
Yeah. And if we push them past their body's hormonal cues telling them it's time for sleep, even by a little bit, even by 15 minutes, the body and brain, it notices that we're not obeying those hormonal cues. And it's like, what's going on here? Do we need to hunt longer, fight, flee for our lives? All right, we're going to help you out with some hormones to do that. So it ushers in a big burst of cortisol, which is a wakefulness hormone that's designed to keep us awake and productive and focused throughout the day until it's time for sleep again, or to do those functions that help us survive and and if you function in an emergency situation. And it's accompanied by adrenaline, a stress hormone that heightens our senses. We're extra sensitive to light and sound. So when we hear, I hear a lot of parents talk about sensory issues and all of that. That's often, if you dive deep enough, you'll see some sleep deprivation going on. And when that happens, when we're sleep deprived, it can be chronic. It can put us into chronic states of stress. And then we're operating off of adrenaline for our energy for the 24-hour day. And we see sensory issues and all kinds of, just kind of cognitive, issues, inflexibility with that, not just with the children, but with the parents too, who are sleep deprived. And this is a vicious cycle. But yeah, those sleep cues are important. We've got a brief amount of time to follow those, and anticipate them in advance is really key.
Yeah. The other thing with the timing too, it is counterintuitive, because, putting babies to bed earlier than we think is okay, now they're going to wake up even earlier than we want them to. And, and again, it's one of those things, I think the outside influences, a lot of times we learn our parenting from our parents or from our siblings and our nieces and our nephews or our friend group. And it's oh, well, we always put our baby to bed at this time and it works for them. You almost forget that every baby is different in a lot of ways, but also that same biological clock. So, like I said, we've kind of started practicing, but we haven't gone full in yet. That's Monday for us. And so we'll learn even more then.
Yep. Yeah. I'm excited for you guys. It's going to be a fun journey.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's hard at first, but sometimes things have to look a little worse before they can get better. But that's how we get at the root of change, and why most people stay stuck in poor habits, because there's that temporary struggle process that comes with change. And, that's why my diets always fail, So,
Same.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited to get you going with that. Yeah. And the timing is very important. And it is important. I like what you said, Megan. You mentioned that, yes, every baby's different. I've been doing this for almost 11 years, thousands of cases. No two babies or children are exactly the same. No two parental dynamics are exactly the same. There are aspects that are very unique. However, biological rhythms, circadian rhythms, and how all of that works at sleep science is the same. And just that, we see, and we're tempted to compare ourselves to our sister or our neighbor who keeps their kid up till 10 o'clock at night, and all of that. But the issue is that sleep deprivation has a tolerance level, just like alcohol tolerance. Some people can handle it a little better than others. Temperament plays a big role in that. And, sometimes, we don't understand that just because we can train our child to, go to bed at 10 o'clock doesn't mean we should. And when we are pushing ourselves or our children past that sweet spot, when melatonin is abundant at sleep onset, and they're catching that cortisol and adrenaline burst, and yep, we can do all the work to get them down to sleep or help them connect back to sleep, but they're going to be waking up sleep deprived because there isn't enough melatonin at sleep onset. We kind of miss that window. It's left the building, and then the sleep cycles then are compromised. We're not getting whole, healthy sleep cycles containing slow wave sleep, which is that sleep crack, that delicious restorative, health benefit of sleep cycles. It's depleted, and now they're waking up right out of the gate sleep deprived. If we miss that timing. So yeah.
So Jenni, can you give us like a really basic overview of like what is circadian rhythm and what are the natural sleep cycles?
Oh,
If you were
yeah.
to look at a graph like light, deep, REM, and percentages of like ideal.
Yeah, that's different depending on the age and what we're talking about. But the stage one sleep, I'll give you an example. I think the two biggest takeaways and the easiest things for parents to remember, is really just stage one. This is where a lot of parents, they are shocked to find out that this is a very light, active behavioral stage of each and every sleep cycle. For little ones, I would say under 3.5, it's about 50 minutes long. At about 3.5 years old, the sleep stage one is about 1 to 7 minutes long for a child under 3.5 whose sleep cycles are about 50 minutes in duration total. As when they turn about 3.5, 3 years and 3 months, 3 years and 6 months, right about it then is when sleep cycles evolve to 90 minutes, like yours and mine. And that's simply because they're able to withstand some prolonged wakefulness because they produce a little more cortisol. And those 90-minute cycles, once we get to that point, then the nap starts to naturally drop off. And then we need, that nap again, when we're 50, so right here.
25.
Right. But stage one is a very light, active behavioral stage of each sleep cycle. We're moving around a lot, talking, mumbling in our sleep. Babies will cry or scream out during that time, but they have no idea they're doing it, just like we don't know we're doing it in each of our sleep cycles. Simultaneously, those eyes are opening up. And if the optic nerve catches the slightest bit of light or glow coming from the edges of blackout drapes, or there's some noise going on outside the bedroom window or bedroom door, it can arouse a child all the way awake, fragmenting their sleep, or an adult for that matter. So that's one component of the sleep cycle. I make sure that parents really understand, so I'm not overwhelming them with too much of all the different stages of and REMs and all the things, because that can be overwhelming to a sleep deprived parent, or an adult. The other stage of sleep that's really important to understand is stage 3, slow wave, or delta sleep. Sometimes, we've had a couple of differences in what we used to classify in the different stages, and that's where also there's a lot of confusion, because back in the day, it used to be they call it 4 stages, and then it went to 3, and then there's like 5, and it's really all the essentials that you need to know is stage 1, and then there's that sort of REM sleep in stage 2, and then deep slow wave, and then sometimes we can go back into REM. Again, it depends on the age, and then we start a new sleep cycle, stage 1. But slow wave, this is the one that that's what I hyper focus on. Is especially when we're trying to improve sleep health, independent sleep skills. It's that deep, delicious, yummy sleep crack that parents pay me to get for themselves when they want to sleep train, because their sleep is fragmented all night. Yeah, exactly. Because if you're not getting it, doesn't matter how many hours of sleep you're getting or your child's getting, you're waking up sleep deprived. And that puts the digestive system in a state of stress. And we start seeing eating issues with, little ones, light snacky feeds at the breast all day, just, poor digestion, GERD, reflux, just all the, irritable bowel syndrome, start really messes with the gut. The microbiome system, the ability to produce good and healthy bacteria in and on the gut and absorb the nutrients from our foods, our at a cellular level is dependent upon slow wave sleep. They're completely connected.
So crazy.
And so, and here's an interesting fact that I hope helps parents feel really, confident or comfortable with, or relieved, I should say, is that when we are experiencing whole, healthy sleep cycles containing slow wave, it's impossible for us to feel hunger or pain, including teething pain. So it's a big myth out there that some babies don't sleep because they're teething. Yeah. And that's, and when they're able, when nighttime circadian rhythms come into full maturity at 16 weeks, daytime is about 18 to 20 weeks. That's when, we can start the process of consolidating sleep at night and allowing the natural consolidation of calories to start taking place during the day. And the slow wave sleep ensures that we don't feel hunger when we're sleeping, so that our brain can focus on doing what it needs to do instead of focusing on digesting a big meal that's in the stomach. And those old wives' tales used to tell parents that, your baby needs to have a big meal or they must be hungry, is whether, and you got to fill them up so they'll sleep well, or, all those things, just, kind of some old myths that actually are very counterproductive to sleep. The REM sleep is interesting. And again, just depending on a 50-minute cycle or 90-minute cycle and age and, what's going on there, those are different for different, age groups. But REM is where I find it fascinating because it acts like the natural psychologist for ourselves or our children. It's where we actually process the day's events that maybe we were too busy to address or contemplate or meditate on or give real thought to, and addressing how it's impacting our mind, our body. When we avoid doing that, or our children are kept so busy, or they're too tired, they're overtired, or they just are struggling to manage their emotions and their big feelings and practice those because they're sleep deprived, it will work itself out in REM sleep in the resulting in nightmares. Which doesn't happen until about 3 years old. Prior to that, it's night terrors, and night terrors are just a direct result of bedtimes that are too late, poor sleep hygiene. So REM sleep is very interesting. It's our built-in free psychologist. It will work your stuff out. And so if I'm working with an adult or an older child that's got some anxiety and, issues with sleep, and just, when we figure out that we don't sleep well, we get really anxious about having to go to bed, and they, and so the anxiety leading up to something we don't like to have to do or we don't do well is always worse than the event itself. But we get so worked up knowing we don't sleep well, or a child is developing anxieties, being sleep deprived and not able to process, and and also knowing that they don't do this sleep well. It's a perfect storm, and that's where we see those kiddos or adults struggle with nightmares or waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep. It's all very connected. And that's what these 4 pillars of sleep hygiene and my toddler and big kid program and my private coaching addresses, is really getting at the root of things instead of just slapping band-aids on things in the moment just to survive the night or the moment. It's soup to nuts.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like Kimmy and I, we're not shy about like our issues of us growing up. Like I was like the bedwetter, and Kimmy was the nightmares and night terrors. Like that was totally both of us growing up. And my parents always said, or were told, that I was a bedwetter because I was a super deep sleeper.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. We're learning there's a lot of new science coming out right now. Actually, I was just attending a couple of lectures this last week that just, mind blowing. It's still a very new science. We used to think that the bedwetters are the ones that sleep really deep. It's actually, we're finding out that that's not the case at all. You'll be surprised to know that vitamin D and exposure to light can have some impact on that. And just, sleep deprivation can exasperate it.
Mhm.
You know, just like, you know, the nightmare situation. And, you know, of course, unprocessed emotions or experiences that children go through as they're learning new things. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be a negative experience. It could just be a new experience. And they're just, you know, for whatever reason, you know, there just isn't time and space, you know, maybe in a busy family, or, you know, to kind of help them express and work through those things before bedtime. So, you know, when I work with little ones who I'm, you know, who are presenting with the bedwetting issues or the nightmare issues, I have some special things I weave into that program that really help to address those things on a daily basis.
Interesting. Jenni, so going back to the REM sleep, have you heard of the podcast that Matt Walker was on, Joe Rogan? And
Yeah.
he wrote the book Why We Sleep.
Yep. He's dead on in a lot of what he's saying. So yes, I'm familiar.
I love that episode.
Yeah.
But he was saying that REM sleep is kind of like, it cleans your brain. Is that correct?
Yeah, it acts like a lymphatic system to the brain. There's a special sort of a spinal cerebral fluid. I forget the technical name for it. Matt Walker lays it out, but you know, if you want to go that deep, but it basically it clears waste and toxins and stress that build up on this vital organ every 24 hours. And that's only if we're getting, it's actually in that slow wave delta sleep that happens. The brain is not connected to the rest of the body's lymphatic system. It is dependent upon slow wave sleep to do that. And it just clears all those waste, toxins, and stress that build up on every 24 hours. And if it's not getting the opportunity to do that, that's where we start seeing mental health issues. It is directly connected to mental health issues, not just with adults, but children too. Again, going back to, there's an explosion in anxiety in children these days, and just struggle to regulate emotions. Nothing I've ever seen before. And a lot of it, there's so much more that goes into this. Again, going back to vitamin D levels, which is actually, vitamin D is a hormone, and also understanding how the pineal gland works, and the super charismatic, I can't remember the name of it, but that part of the brain that really just really manages the circadian rhythms. Light has a big impact on that. The optic nerve tells the brain exactly what it needs to be doing when it comes to wakefulness and sleep, and vitamin D is all connected in that. It's just, there's a lot of things. And I kind of like to just keep those cookies on the bottom shelf, or I lose people, but we want the basics. We don't need to go, you don't need a certification to, you can just get the program and, really dive deep and be able to solve your child's sleep issues as well as the adults in the family.
Yeah. I mean, and, Jenni and I also connected because she's also a Portland girl at heart. And so, let's talk about vitamin D up here in the Pacific Northwest, or lack thereof. That is, and I see that a lot with my patients, and just the sleep, and, even within myself, of like when my vitamin D is low, like I can tell a difference. I've had multiple patients recently be like, yeah, we're kind of feeling that like seasonal, affective disorder around here lately, because weather in Portland has been nuts lately. It snowed in April, you guys, which is not Portland. Rain, okay, but snow. So I think just that vitamin D conversation is so interesting.
It really is. And the latest discoveries on how vital that is for our overall health and immune system, and our function with sleep, it directly impacts sleep. And vitamin, yes. And I grew up in Portland my whole life, and I didn't have an umbrella until I moved to California and got weak.
That's right.
We're hardcore up here, So, when those northern regions, the southern regions of the United States and of the of the world, they kind of the California and Arizona and Nevada, they're really lucky. They don't really have vitamin D issues like we do. They get enough of it, and it's strong enough, the UVB year round, that unfortunately though, I see it all the time, is 93% of our lives, even in the southern part of the country, are spent indoors. And so I still have to, you wouldn't believe how much harder it is to get somebody from LA to get themselves and their children outside than it is from, you know, some of my clients in Norway or Sweden or the UK or Canada. You know, they're like, sure, no problem, dead of winter, I got this. You know, it's just you know, they get it. It's interesting too. I actually you know, did some digging into what you know, back in the early 80s. Saw some photos of some Soviet children standing in front of an infrared light, you know, getting the red wavelengths. And it was a part of how they took care of children and made sure that their vitamin D levels didn't drop so low that they started, you know, having, you know, just issues with vital organs, and, you know, it increased death rates and all of that. And it was just, you know, you stand around, they were all standing around this light. I think it's going to be posted in my Instagram, Jenni June Sleep, on Monday. So look for that. The history's there. But what we can do in these northern regions is to definitely, you know, look for a really good quality vitamin D supplement. Make sure it's combined with K2, you know, green or leafy greens. One of the things that I do, I spend a lot of time in the Northwest now, since most of my work is virtual. You know, I take the cod liver oil with a little lemon essence in it, so it's actually not nasty at all. But I take about 3 tablespoons of that, and I make sure I get about 10,000 IUs, you know, every day, you know, and as best I can, you know, there's some measurements. Actually, I should probably get to posting those. Some of this new
next
research.
Instagram post. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. But kids have got to be outside, especially little ones. We've got to get them outside, rain or shine. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy, rainy day. The UVB from the sun, you know, will still penetrate the skin, even in the winter. You know, it's not as much, it's very minimal, especially in these northern regions. But even, you know, the Southern California, you know, families I work with, on a cloudy winter day, still get them outdoors, even if you're under cover, because UVB actually bounces off of the grass and the concrete and will still penetrate the skin. So cool. And even if there's just a little bit exposure, you know, if you're covered up head to toe in snow gear, you're still getting it. And that's just absolutely critical to sleep and overall immune and you know, mental and physical health for children and adults.
Yeah.
We had Dr. Wang Chu. He's a dentist in Singapore who's like really big on sleep. And he was talking to our listeners about how early morning and late evening, like when the sun is either rising or setting, is the best time for infrared. And that infrared actually helps to stimulate your hormones and your sleep hormones and the pineal gland.
Correct. And in fact, most people don't realize that your morning routine is just as impactful for night sleep as your bedtime routine. And it is, you know, our circadian rhythms are dictated entirely by the rising and setting of the sun and the way the earth rotates on its axis. It has nothing to do, you know, with, you know, all these other sort of fads and gimmicks out there. And, you know, infrared light exposure is key. One thing we have to be aware of too is that, you know, a lot of people think that if they have a red light bulb or a red colored light or an amber colored light, that's going to do the job, that it's going to improve sleep. And it has nothing to do with the red color of the light bulb. It has everything to do with the wavelengths, the infrared component. And that's why, you know, when I'm working with a child or an adult, you know, you can use the blue blockers, sunglasses and things, but it doesn't really, bottom line, it's not going to impact what the blue light behind these screen devices does, that, you know, eliminates the pixels in our screen devices. It's not going to have that big of an impact. LED light is the worst thing for melatonin, and it's in every artificial lighting source out there, unless you're, you know, getting these specialty lights and infrared lights and things and exposing yourself to that in the morning and in the evening, you know, and using that as your source of light. When in a pinch, I like to use candlelight. Candlelight has a natural infrared wavelength component that supports and helps to kickstart melatonin and serotonin. So candlelit baths at night are a great way to kind of, you know, help to get those juices flowing and prepare for sleep. Yeah, but also turning off our screen devices, all of them, for our children and ourselves, ideally 90 minutes before sleep, you know, but if you can even just get an hour of, you know, just being free, you know, from light exposure of any kind, LED, blue light from screen devices, and you know, give that to yourselves or your children an hour before sleep, ideally an hour and a half. You're going to see a massive improvement because it won't sabotage melatonin production.
Such a good tip. I know you've been giving us like all the best nuggets. Like, I hope everybody's been able to take some stuff away. And, and if you haven't been able to, that's where you can do an even deeper dive with Jenni too. So, yeah, loving it.
So Jenni, my question for you is there's like a controversy I've been seeing online about letting the baby stay in the room and cry it out and learn to self-soothe versus not letting them cry it out because they think that there's some negative consequences to the nervous system. I literally know nothing about this. Can you explain this to us?
Yes. I'm glad you brought it up. There's so many misconceptions about sleep training. And I get calls a bunch. I have a section of my morning that I devote to 15-minute free initial consultations. Whoever wants to, schedule one of those in your audience is welcome to do that. But I get every day, at least 2 or 3, sometimes more, people who assume that sleep training means cried out. And they have this kind of assumption that that's how it gets done, and that's not the case at all. All methods out there are going to involve some temporary struggle as we're learning a new skill or adapting to a new routine. And like any other gross motor skill where a child's learning to roll over or sit up or stand and starting to walk, there's always that kind of temporary struggle process where you're a little wobbly and sometimes you fall over and and it's frustrating, and they cry and they're just like trying to do this and they get back up and they try and master it. There's a big difference between tears of temporary struggle while learning a new skill or adapting to a new routine versus tears of actual suffering, which we would immediately respond to, right? But back to sleep training and cry it out. There's many ways to accomplish helping your children learn independent sleep skills and consolidate their sleep at night. It doesn't involve crying. It doesn't necessarily need to involve leaving the room and letting them cry on their own. I work with all methods, and I let my parents choose. And really the biggest difference between all these different methods is how much parental involvement parents want to have during that temporary struggle process. And if a parent doesn't feel good about what they're doing, if they're thinking that they're going to be forced into using cry it out and they don't feel good about it, they're not going to be able to be consistent for their child. And that child needs, when they're learning a new skill, especially when they're sleep deprived and it's, they're just kind of going into this, just kind of not sure why they feel so miserable, and just really dependent upon us to help them relieve this stress from the sleep deprivation. They just really require that we set them up for success in every way possible, physically, hormonally, and emotionally. And then we take the step back, to the degree that we're comfortable with. Because if we're not comfortable with what we're doing, we're not going to be consistent for that child. And they just need a simple, clear, consistent message from their loving, securely attached parent or caregiver. That foundation of secure attachment is critical to, that's why we don't want to sleep train newborns or any child under 4 months old. First of all, they don't have they're not developed enough. Their circadian rhythms haven't come into full development to be able to do what we're asking them to do. And just because we can force them to do it doesn't mean we should. So there's people out there who think that you can, offer sleep training stuff for newborns. I don't go there. But that foundation of secure attachment is a foundation of trust from which we can then effectively teach in the next stage of development, in that second stage of infancy, when their circadian rhythms are fully developed and they can actually do what we're asking them to do. And they need us to evolve our care routines to meet and match these evolving developing needs for sleep. But there's a variety of different ways to do this. I have very high level parental involvement strategies and moderate level parental strategies. Yep. And then I have some, many parents that are like, what, I'm so sleep deprived. I have postpartum depression. I can't barely, remember my own name. There's certain things that present age, temperament, past failed sleep training attempts in the background, level of support that parents have. I work with a lot of single parents, and the straightforward approaches feel like a better match for them. And and I let my parents choose because nobody knows your child better than you do. And temperament can play a big role, and also the kind of support you have and just your personal conditions. But when parents choose, and they have a variety of options to choose from, and they know in advance what they can expect in the way of, I let them know, and I don't sugarcoat anything, what you can expect in the way of pushback. Yeah, I get down to it because, in case your kid, your kid could be the one that ruins my career, right? So I
Mine
need you
would
to know what you're
never.
getting. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean sleep training does not equate to cry it out. It does not need to be that unless a parent chooses and feels that that's the best match for their unique child and their unique family. And in proper context, a lot of people, the narrative out there, this is a parent culture that believes, we've been conditioned to believe that all tears are toxic stress. And God forbid, we're not making our kids Disneyland happy all the time. We're going to, destroy attachment, melt their brain cells, or end up visiting them in a state penitentiary by the age of 12. God forbid they should cry, So we're afraid to teach our kids anything at all. Change habits. We try to keep them in a swaddle till they're 8 months old, or, all those things, or, we just we're terrified of that temporary struggle, thinking, that's going to be a toxic stress situation. And there's a big difference between positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress, according to Harvard's Center for the Developing Child. There's great research that breaks all that down. I think it's Harvard. The link is on my sleep science page on my website, and they really do a great job of breaking those different categories down and providing proper context for each of those types of stress. And interestingly enough, they state that if a baby child is not getting enough of positive stress opportunities, which they do include sleep training and some degree of even cry it out, that it's just, is detrimental to their physical and mental health, as it is if you let a child experience toxic stress. Interesting, given all the crazy narratives out there.
It's so true. Oh, that was like such a good nugget too. And like also like such a good encouragement to me for Monday, because like I have to remember that positive stress piece, because I'm totally the mom who like wants Izzy to be like Disneyland happy all the time. And dad's a little more firm than mom. And I like to think it's because I'm tender-hearted and not a sucker, but
Yeah. And
there's a line.
that feminine energy nurturing response is critical for babies and children. And, not always gender specific, sometimes the male partner or the dad will come into it with that kind of take the step forward, rescue, do the work for them, make them happy energy. And the mom will be the one that's like, what, we got boundaries we need to put up in here, kind of thing. And, and it's just interesting, but those dynamics children both need. They need both of those. And there's no, both are equally as nurturing, that feminine energy nurturing responses that typically, moms tend to have that, that take the step forward, rescue the child, make them happy, meet their need right there in the moment, always on demand. And the other parent or partner is, the one that has what I sometimes call a masculine energy nurturing response. Again, not gender specific in any way, but it's the nurturing response that means we set a child up for success, and then we take the step back so that the child can take the step forward and discover what they're capable of doing, and that they can do it better and faster than you can do it for them. That's something that builds what's called self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is the foundation of self-esteem. And at this 2, 3, 4-year-old stage, that's when we really need to start allowing those more masculine energy nurturing response opportunities to balance out and bring some yin and yang to what was primarily prior to that sort of feminine energy nurturing response, taking that step toward the child. And balance is key. When we've got the pendulum swinging too far on one side of an issue or another, we're going to be out of balance. And so everything's about bringing it to the center and really finding balance and the value in both of those nurturing styles.
Yeah, it's so cool. Man, I know we could probably keep talking about this all day long. And like you and I, when we were together, totally did. But I think the other value is honestly spending time with you and really diving in. I know you have that opportunity on your website. You also have some self-paced sleep programs as well. The toddler and big kid sleep from 2 to 5, and then your independent sleep coaching as well for adults. So I really want to encourage our listeners to check it out, get even more into it. Your Instagram, the Jenni June Sleep, also has a lot of great information, but just even getting some time with you was so eye-opening for me. Even when the lens of knowing what I know, I just was able to learn so much too. So now our listeners can find you jennijunesleep.com. Is that right?
It's for my website and to access the course, and also to schedule a free 15-minute initial consultation or discovery call with me. That's on my website, and that website is just jennijune.com. And Jenni is spelled with an I. Yeah. My Instagram is Jenni June Sleep.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So, and we'll of course post this to all of our, all of our social sites as well. So, she won't be a secret to you guys. So, well, it was so great to have you, Jenni. And, I'm excited to, be talking with you in the next few days too. But we have just been, so grateful to pick your brain and, get some nuggets and share some of your secrets with us.
Yes, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, of course, you can catch us, myself at Northwest Myofunctional Therapy, NWFT, Kimmy at Mouth Muscle Memory, and then Jenni at Jenni June Sleep. And we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.